everyone, I am Melody Codelane, and I recently picked up Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, and unfortunately I did not finish it. I was really excited to pick up this book to get back into my book review era. I chose Intermezzo because Sally Rooney is very much acclaimed. People love her. People love her work. She has adaptations of her work. Well, an adaptation that I know of, at least, Normal People. And I was just like, oh, this is perfect. I thought that I was going to love it because the book is about grief and love, and I was like, this sounds like something that I could really get into. But I found pretty early on that this novel was not the novel for me. Let me start out by reading the synopsis for you. All right. An exquisitely moving story about grief, love, and family, but especially love, from the global phenomenon Sally Rooney. Aside from the fact that they are brothers, Peter and Ivan Kubek seem to have little in common. Peter is a Dublin lawyer in his 30s, successful, competent, and apparently unassailable. But in the wake of their father's death, he's medicating himself to sleep and struggling to manage his relationships with two very different women. His enduring first love, Sylvia, and Naomi, a college student for whom life is one long joke. Ivan is a 22-year-old competitive chess player. He has always seen himself as socially awkward, a loner, and the antithesis of his glib elder brother. Now in the early weeks of his bereavement, Ivan meets Margaret, an older woman emerging from her own turbulent past, and their lives become rapidly and intensely intertwined. For two grieving brothers and the people they love, this is a new interlude, a period of desire, despair, and possibility, a chance to find out how much one life might hold inside itself without breaking. Intermezzo is a sort of general fiction, literary fiction, contemporary fiction novel. And as the synopsis says, the book is about two brothers going through their life after their father's passing. It was a book that I was quite looking forward to reading because it said that it was going to be about love and family, but especially love, which is why I thought it could be the book for me. I was thinking it would be something maybe like Adelaide by Genevieve Wheeler, or something much more tame than A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I even thought that maybe it would give me a little taste of Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman, but unfortunately in 3 chapters, I found out that I could no longer continue her novel. So this is The Journey of DNFing Intermezzo by Sally Rooney in 3 parts. Part 1, Chapter 1, The Death. I named Part 1 The Death because in Chapter 1 we find out about the father's passing. And this book, let me tell you, the start of this book was not what I could have ever expected, to say the very least. I was honestly unsure if they had distributed the correct copies to stores, because I was confused, I was lost, and I didn't know what was going on. And it wasn't the plot, it wasn't the characters, it wasn't the content, it was the sentences. They were fractured and choppy. It almost reminded me of like a screenplay, because in a screenplay you can kind of get away with that, but I had never really seen it done in novels before, or at least not to this extent, take up a whole chapter, which to my knowledge, apparently there are some other chapters like that. I think it's from sort of Peter's chapters. His chapters are like that, so it might even continue to do it later on. So that's something completely different for me. And it was hard to follow, but I did my best, and obviously I followed that. For the most part, the most important thing that happened was their father's passing, and they attended the funeral. And even though it was a slow start, I was like, okay, sure. Books have slow starts sometimes. So I continued to read, and I was looking forward to reading. Which takes us into part 2, chapter 2, the lecture after chess. So I call part 2 the lecture after chess because in chapter 2, Ivan plays a chess match, and then afterwards, before his matches, because he played like 10 at a time, he meets this woman named Margaret, and then after the game, they socialize in a group setting together, and then it was her responsibility, her job, to take Ivan back to his accommodation, and he invites her in, and then the lecture happens. It's not actually a lecture, but to me, it felt that way. So, starting chapter 2 was like a fresh start. The sentences were intact, and I could follow along with the story so much better, which is when it became clear to me that I had been introduced to about 4-ish characters: Margaret, Ivan, Peter, and I think Sylvia. That might have been in chapter 1, but Sylvia. And there is a Naomi, but I don't know if that was in chapter 3 or if we heard of Naomi in chapter 1 or 2. But I realized that I wasn't really connecting to any of those characters, and I wasn't really interested in them, and I wasn't falling in love with them, and none of them, Peter or Ivan especially, they didn't seem to have like any established goals, which is supported by the fact that there weren't like any stakes yet or like much of a plot. And I am a reader who can definitely read a character-driven novel for sure, but this story was unfortunately so void of plot in the very most pushy and uninteresting of ways. Again, all for like a character-driven novel, but I've got personally just to have a little bit of plot. And I call the void of plot a little pushy because of the lecture. Because reading chapter 2 sort of put me in a state where I felt that I had done something wrong and needed to be consoled in some sort of way. And I felt like I was being lectured. I felt like I was being like subjected to a self-help book or a therapy session that I did not ask for. And I understand that some individuals like that or might be pleasantly surprised when they find that in their novels, but myself, not so much. I will read for you the big thing that Sally Rooney writes. She says, "It's like you said, you can drive yourself crazy thinking about these things, the other lives you could have had, and the life you did have after it's over. Where did it go? I mean, what are you supposed to do with it? Everyone in their 20s has these problems you're talking about. Feeling left out and thinking people don't like you. Those aren't serious problems at your age, even if they feel that way." So, like, she writes that, and I completely agree, and I think that that's such a good thing for people to hear, whether they're younger than their 20s or older than their 20s. I think that's really, really great, but personally, like, I feel attacked, girl. Like, I just wasn't exactly in the mood to sort of have that conversation or hear that, or at least not in such a direct way. And not to say that, oh, maybe I just am not in the mood for this novel. I definitely wouldn't say that, because that's not the biggest problem I'm having. The biggest problem is definitely the lack of plot and the lack of care that I have for the characters. And I just feel like Sally Rooney was trying really hard to let you know how wise she is. And if an author or a storyteller wants to do that, personally, I like it to be done as indirectly as possible. When reading that, I feel like she was talking directly to me, which in a way I think that's great, to be able to literally reach through the page and have it feel like she's right there, like speaking to me. But again, like, I feel like, whoa, I need some distance, I need some space. I didn't know that this is what that was gonna be. Like, I didn't know you were gonna come into my home and give me like unsolicited therapy. You know, it just wasn't exactly a thing for me. So I definitely prefer something like that to be done indirectly. But again, I know that people enjoy it, and so that's honestly what's great about it. I think some people will really, really, really connect with that, and I think that's beautiful. And so part 3, chapter 3, the scheduled lunch and the end. It is called the scheduled lunch and the end because after I listened to a very dull, phone call between Peter and Ivan that ended with them scheduling lunch together, I was like, this needs to be the end. I need to not torture myself so much because I don't deserve that. I don't deserve to like hurt myself like that and give myself such pain. Because literally the whole entire time I was like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I could be watching something else, listening to something else, reading something else. I just wasn't enjoying it at all. And so about 60 to 80 pages, I forget exactly what the number was, but it was then around halfway through chapter 3 that I decided to put Intermezzo down. And that's okay. So all in all, I think it's hard to recommend this book generally, but I think it is for certain people and also for other people at certain times. So I do believe that this has a potential to be a very great book, as it already has proven to be by its ratings, for certain individuals or individuals during certain times. So yeah, with that, tell me what you think about Intermezzo if you have read it or you're in the process of reading it or if you're considering reading it. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I want to thank you so much for watching this review. You can find me on Instagram, Reddit, TikTok, and other places that are going to be linked in the description below. Thanks one last time for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Hello fellow storytellers and story lovers. I want to thank you kindly for watching my video. If you want to see more from me, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow me on Instagram at MelodyCLane. If you're looking for someone to help you develop your story, I'm available. You can find more information on my website. The link is in the description below.